hundreds of thousands of dollars sucked out of our bank account because of mismanagement, vacancies, code violations, evictions, turnover of management properties. I mean, literally everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Thankfully, I did not raise capital at that point. Pain is a very good motivator, right? I will be playing this game until I die because I just love it. I love doing it. I have so much time left. We are in 35 states at this point we've done deals in.
All right, everybody, welcome to the podcast, Modern Land Investor. Today, we've got a treat for you. We have Mr. Clay Hepler on the podcast. And I first learned about Clay on Twitter, now X, formerly Twitter, back in, when did you jump into the land business, Clay? Was this like 2019, 2020? I can't remember.
Actually, it was 2023.
2023. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Later than I thought. Well, I mean, I feel like you've jumped in and taken the land business by storm, which is really cool to see. And I remember I saw you posting on Twitter and you were putting some pretty thoughtful tweets out. And I guess we can call them X posts now. But, so I reached out to you. We had a short chat with, you, me, and my business partner, Michael. And I don't even know if you remember this chat because we were just on the phone, not even on video. And you told me something that, I thought was pretty cool. You were like, I've learned about this business and I'm jumping in and I'm going to take it as the most serious opportunity of my life. And that stuck with me. And then I was like, cool, I'm going to keep an eye on this guy and, just see where he goes. And I mean, you have, I feel like, kept true to that statement and really grown a lot. So I want to ask you a ton of questions, where you come from, where are you now, where are you going? And I just think that you have a super interesting story. So, first of all, thanks for joining us. And I'm just looking forward to it, man.
Dude, so am I. I'm really excited.
Cool. So, so first things first, I mean, how did you find your way into land? And I think, it's really good to kind of start with the origin story. Where were you before land and how'd you really get into land?
Yep. So I was in real estate and I was working for a mom and pop shop, a guy that owned a couple hundred units kind of with his own equity in Pittsburgh, which is where I'm originally from. And I learned about the real estate business from, at that point, like the Bigger Pockets was really in full swing and the market has not matured in general, and real estate market had not matured. And so there was a lot of opportunity in pretty much every asset class at that point. And so I was sort of this young, very malleable person that wanted to build wealth. And I thought real estate, it just caught me at the right time. It could have been any other asset class, could have been any other pursuit, but I at that point was an entrepreneurial oriented. I was listening to the Grant Cardone tapes because I was in kind of sales and I was listening to Bigger Pockets. It was kind of very similar origin story that I feel like a lot of people that got in at the time that I got in experienced as podcasts were getting a little bit more widespread. And so I went and joined this guy. I learned a ton from him. Actually was a CG member as well. You might have even known him. At least his president, who became a really dear mentor of mine and some person I still look up to today, has an incredibly thriving wholesaling and house flipping business. And I helped build that business. So I actually helped build this house flipping business, which now is the number one house flipping business in the city of Pittsburgh. By a long shot. By 50% gross profit, higher than pretty much everyone else. So really was interesting to be a part of that. And I was kind of in the acquisition seat and kind of ran that part. And along the way, I was like, hey, I'm going to pick up some rentals. So I bought a house hack using FHA 203K financing fix it up, had a ton of nightmares with that. And at that point, interest rates were still pretty low. And so I just started buying other rental properties. So I bought another 3 unit, I bought a 6 unit, then I bought a single family home like very, very quickly. And then people started to approach me and say, hey, we lend you money short term. And I ended up buying 65 units after those original units in like less than a year. And so we scaled very quickly. And I was wholesaling stuff that didn't make sense because I'd built my own kind of off market business because at that point I'd left the wholesaling company. So we acquired all these properties like very quickly, and they were old properties, built in 1900, right? And looking back, I've matured a lot as a business owner. Even like we mature very quickly if we choose to, right? Um, and usually the choice is getting punched in the face, which I've gotten punched in the face many times. So we acquired all these properties that were, and I'm talking like big properties relative to my income. I wasn't syndicating. I wasn't raising capital like that. So, we were buying and flipping 28 units, 15 units, but like big properties that were meaty. We're not talking like built in Tennessee, like 2007 Tennessee. We're talking like meaty, um, you know, brick buildings that you couldn't like run an airplane through, right? With like huge capex, flat roofs, three-tab single pane windows, knob and tube wiring, like a lot of old buildings that required a lot of capital expenditures and issues, right? Like issues with these types of properties because that's where the opportunity was. So I thought I was like really smart, right, as an entrepreneur, and because I was able to acquire these properties very quickly. Then we went through a series of very poor management choices. So we hired a manager that was similar in our philosophy of just fill the units and get the cash flow versus management is actually the alpha in owning properties. And so we filled our properties very quickly with tenants that were not very qualified. And then we decided, hey, this manager is not the right manager. We went to another manager and we just got clobbered. I mean, we got in a period of 12 months, hundreds of thousands of dollars sucked out of our bank account because of mismanagement, vacancies, code violations, evictions, turnover of management properties. I mean, literally everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Thankfully, I did not raise capital at that point. Um, but the exodus was from this asset class to land was I needed money, and so I was at that point still overly confident, and I was like, hey, I need to make money. My wife had lost her job. She was working for a real estate developer in Austin, Texas at that point, remote as like a marketing executive, and they lost their capital that they were going to raise to like seed the company. And so my wife lost her job. We were getting just annihilated by the capital expenditures, trying to flip and wholesale our way out of it. We also acquired a large luxury Airbnb in the Rocky Mountains. And I was just bad at underwriting that. And so I made all these mistakes um, very quickly. And the problem with real estate is, as I've learned more and more, is it's this like very slow moving train. And when you make a mistake, it's very hard to quickly detect the mistake that you made. It doesn't really show up for a while. That includes like the stuff that we do today with subdivides. Um, and we think that the beginning and the end of the transaction happens when we close the asset. Even with subdivides today, and we closed in the last month alone probably 6 subdivides of various different sizes. It's just the beginning, and I made that huge mistake. The vanity purchase in Colorado and all these rental properties. So I saw the Instagram ad and I was like, we eventually wanted to move to this house in Colorado, Chris. And we're like, dude, I need this to be like a virtual business, right? And so when you and I spoke years ago, right? And I said that this is the big thing. it was not because of like I was pointing and like picking my shot. It was the avoidance of destruction, right? Really. So that's a hard pain is a very good motivator. So I got into the business as a result of a series of bad decisions, which admittedly, I take ownership of them. It's a decisions that were made poorly out of a lack of immaturity, not out of a conscious stupidity. Let's just say that. And that's how I got into the business, and I had to start learning. And so the pressure and focus that I had to gather was not because of anything other than I needed to make this work. I did not have a choice. And so I think that that's overlooked when Clay, you've been successful. Well, there's been a lot of stuff that I've messed up along the way, and there's a lot of other people that I'd call out here publicly that I learned from, and ruthlessly stole and cloned their business model, because they had better business models. Um, but that's how I got into it, and that's how I would say that I've been able to have success.
Yeah, yeah, I love that story, and thanks for, talking about all the punches in the face, and it's hard to take accountability for our mistakes, but it's the key to growth, and so, I'm glad you're sharing that stuff. I'm curious, when saw the Instagram ad and it was said, "Flip land, make money," it's it's very similar to wholesaling houses, right? I mean, it's a different asset class, but you are doing fast flips. How come you went with land at that point instead of going back to something that you had familiarity with, that you were working with a household seller off the bat and you could have kind of like cloned that business? Was there any reason that you said, you know what, let me just do land?
In hindsight, um, the way I interpreted it, well, even in the moment was, um, opportunity vehicle, and no one's talking about this. So I think that there was the ad was very good, and also just kind of learning about it online. That this is not competitive at all relative to house flipping and wholesaling. I knew the wholesaling world, like I was good enough that I could have gone back in, but um, I didn't think that I could manage a business. And we know, you and I both, in CG, know like people that do this stuff virtually and are insanely successful. But honestly, the people that are the most successful are in person.
Hmm.
And so I had a limiting belief, or I don't know what the technical term would be, but I was like, hey, I'm gonna move to Colorado. At that point, I had made that decision. It ended up not like happening, but um, so I need a virtual business. And then I also thought to myself, like, what do I actually want to do? And I wanted to play a bigger game, and so I didn't want to be a house wholesaler or flipper. Because I had aspirations of like building something like really big. And so I was like, I'm not really gonna get there with flipping houses. So that's kind of the two how I logic my way into making a decision to become a land investor.
Yeah, sure. And I'm sure the virtual part of it was a big deal for you. And it was for me too. I mean, when I got into land, I did not want to go do a bunch of stuff in person. So I totally get it from that perspective. And I think when we spoke, which I guess must have been 2023, you were either heading to Colorado or maybe you were out there for some reason, like maybe you were just checking on the house, but I thought that that's where you were moving and or lived. But so where are you now, and where do you like to invest?
I'm in
And sorry, I don't
Pennsylvania.
mean specifics on like investing like which markets, but are you able to do this all virtually?
Yeah. Um, we are in like, I don't know, 35 states at this point we've done deals in.
Wow. Okay.
Um, we've done deals in like, yeah, about 35-ish states. Um, I live in Pennsylvania.
Okay. So you're in Pennsylvania. All right. And able to do it virtually. And you're doing subdivides, but I think it'd be good to maybe talk about the journey because I've kind of like seen you grow a lot over these last just 3 years now, and I know you're doing subdivides now, and I think you're doing deal funding and just maybe straight flips. I don't know if you're even doing that, but did you start with straight flips? Like, what was the journey from then? And off the bat, what were the original deals, and where do you focus your time and energy now?
Yes. So originally I was just doing direct mail, you know. That was a playbook even back then. Had a lot of success. I got my first deal was an infill lot in Santa Rosa County, Florida. Bought it for 19, sold it for like 39 in Santa Rosa County. And then I just sent a ton of mail. And I would say looking back, like I didn't have a lot of money in my bank account. Like it was a real risk. My wife was aware of it because we had to pay for our wedding, right? So it was kind of like we don't have enough money to pay for our wedding, basically. So I had to earn the money to pay for my wedding and live. I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy, to be honest with you. And so we sent out a bunch of direct mail, and our like second huge. So we mailed a ton of stuff in Florida. We got a couple of really bad subdivisions. Like if you've ever worked in Florida, like there's some weird subdivisions that were like mismanaged, and they're like all in wetlands, and some like developer, like this one developer, like went up to Chicago and like sold a shit ton of, I don't know if I can swear on this, uh, uh
It's fine.
info lots to people in Chicago, right? And so we were like mailing this place, and we couldn't buy any of the lots. So I got at the beginning sent out 15,000 letters and didn't get a single deal. It was like pretty tough. And then we got this deal, and then I got some deals in South Carolina, man. After we moved from Florida, and we got some big deals. So we did subdivide in Orangeburg County, did a ton of deals in Calhoun County right from the jump, and then did a couple of subdivides even that first year in Aiken County. Um, and we made some money. Like, I mean, there are other people that have done way better than me, but we did 650 in our first year. When I say we, I mean me. Which was a lot. Now, I did not scale like smartly. Um, in that I was kind of trying different marketing channels, and I hired a bunch of people, and it was like horrible at hiring people. But we ended up clearing that amount. So that allowed me to pay for my life. And like for your first year doing 650 was, especially where I started with like 30K ish. The returns were like crazy because we hit a couple of really good subdivides um, that first year. And so we just kind of scaled from there, man. At that point, texting just came into vogue, like the launch control game. So people were just texting. We started texting back then. And we just hit some really good deals on that first year. And my background sales and marketing. So I'm very confident in my sales ability because I had done it so much. I just had the reps. And so I was able to probably convert more people than most um, that first year. So that's how I started. And then like today, if that was your question, um, we're doing a lot of what we were doing back then, which is focusing 95% of our efforts on getting better at sales and marketing on the front
Okay.
end. And
Okay.
how do we become a lead? How do we become a marketing company? In for all types of deals. Like how do we get brokers to send us deals? How do we um, make sure that we're targeting the right sellers, stacking lists, stacking demographics, analyzing our numbers, and building like this compounding engine. Uh, and obviously we're funding deals. Like we're funding a ton of people's deals now. Um, Somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know, 6 to 12, 15 a month of funding deals. Um, a lot of them are larger funding deals. A lot of them are subdivides. Um, and that's kind of what it looks like now.
Okay. Gotcha. So I do feel like this business really is just very multifaceted, right? And you can do a lot of different pieces of the business on acquisitions, and then you have this whole other side of the business, which is dispositions, and there's all the same pieces, just kind of in reverse order. And you already told me your answer. I mean, like I always get curious about where people focus their time and where they specialize. And you're really good at sales and closing deals. And so now and it sounds like marketing. And so bringing those leads in and closing them, and I know from my time and your time too in CG, that is a huge focus. It's like, I feel like it's 80% of the conversation in there, which is so key. And I remember when I got in to CG, land it was so sleepy. It used to be not that competitive. And I remember sitting down with people and them saying, "Hey, what's your speed to lead? What do you focus on?" And I was like, what is speed to lead? I don't even know. And, they're like, "How fast do you get back to a lead?" And I'm like, "At least within 3 days." And they're like, "What?" Like not 3 seconds. Cause it was just a different time, but I, where I'm going with this is I could imagine you coming into the game as a wholesaler and being like, "You know what? This is crazy. These land guys are asleep at the wheel. I'm going to take my skill set and I'm going to apply it here in a like high pressure in this space and just clean up." And like, no one does 650 their first year. Like, that's insane. You did 650 in year one and you're doing subdivides. And I think that's, anybody that's coming over from like the house world into the land space has just got to be like going, okay, everybody, I think it's different now in 2026, but you had a huge advantage, I would say, coming into the business and having that sales background, which is phenomenal. So, with that though, like one thing that you mentioned is you sucked at hiring, you sucked at, kind of building the operation. I feel like I feel like you're good at that because I read some of your posts. I'm a subscriber of your blog, so I get your newsletter, and I feel like you've really developed yourself in that way.
Mhm.
But I'm curious, like what does your team look like now? And you don't have to get too specific if you don't want to, but like, what's just like your leadership philosophy? How do you build a team? How do you put people in the right spots and really get everybody everybody operating? And one question really quick off the bat is like, is it a virtual team or is it in the office,
Mhm. Yeah. So over time, my philosophy has changed. So if you listen to this podcast in 2026 and hear what I talked about last year, like I can change, guys. I'm a human being. Um, and my philosophy is constantly changing on what the needs of the business are. So I think first, how I approach this conversation with myself and in general is that there's this like really kind of nefarious term that's thrown around in our business, which is a CEO. Very few of us are actually CEOs. And if we kind of like divorce ourselves from that term, it becomes much easier to run our business. Now, I have experience with connecting with many people as a result of people being in my community, right? So I talk with a lot of investors who are in the multiple $100,000 a year game. They want to get to $1 million, like usually low $100,000 in what we call the deal engine, right? And so a lot of times, and I'm saying this, it might shoot me in the foot, but I'm just going to be honest. Like you don't really scale out of a business like that, and as soon as you try to scale yourself out of a business that is that small, like man, and anyone that says that online, what I've realized is I've even made that mistake in the past. And what I've realized is in the same breath, there were so many things that were going on in my business that were wrong, even though I was making money, that it kind of stressful that it's like that was disingenuous. So I want you to divorce yourself. And this is a reminder to me of the idea that you are a CEO. You are not a CEO, right? We are not CEOs until we're multiple seven figures, maybe eight figure businesses. Um, And so when you are approaching the concept of hiring, uh, you need to first divorce yourself of the CEO notion. And then secondly, um, where I see people mess up and where I have messed up is emotions. So the emotional decision of this is what I think I need, the emotional decision of this is what someone online has told me to do. it's very poisonous to your business. One of the biggest things that is an anchor to our businesses is poor hiring. Um, because as I learned from one of my clients, one of my private coaching clients, a dear friend of mine now, who worked for Amazon, very, very smart guy, right? Ran internal HR at Amazon. He said the biggest tax on a small business is um, transitions and overturning people. So where I messed up in the past was I would hire very emotionally, I would hire quickly. And then what would happen would be I would get frustrated because I didn't clarify the outputs that I was looking to actually hire because it was an emotional hire where someone else told me, oh, you need to hire an extra text or an extra caller or whatever. And so it was a very emotional decision, Chris, and it caused so much downstream effects. And the problem in our business is when we make a decision, it is not an independent event. It is a decision that has repercussions 3 to 6 months down the road, but we never see it. And it's very difficult for us as business owners because a lot of times our head's in the sand to understand that the decision that we made caused the fact that I'm not doing 5 deals this month. Right. Well, the reality is you're actually spending so much of your time on the shitty TC hire that you made, and your cash conversion cycle is not going down because you made a bad TC hire, and now you got to unravel that whole thing, and then that you're not going to get to your goals this year because you made one bad hire. Right. So external, internal emotions are what kill us. And so what I have done to stifle my vulnerabilities, right, as someone that hires, is understanding what the business actually requires. And a lot of times it requires less than what you believe it does because most people that are listening to this are probably not building that you're probably not having like $8 million a year businesses. You and I would have a different conversation if that was the case. Now I can talk about that, right? Um, because we expect to be there somewhere in the neighborhood of the next 18 months. So we kind of have the plans of where that is, hopefully 12 months. But um, that is a huge problem. And the way I was got out of it was like, okay, so if I have this goal, what are the actions of the business? What do the actions of the business require? So we need to offer on people. We need to offer on the right people. Um, we need to close these deals as quickly as possible. I mean, there's a ton of things. And so if we know that there's a certain amount of levers in a business, i.e. KPIs that we need to pull in order to achieve the outcome that we're looking to achieve, then we build the business around the KPIs that we need to achieve in order to get the outcome that we're looking to get. And so then we're like, okay, so what is the person who is the person that we need to hire in order to fulfill these outcomes? And a lot of times we might get frustrated and say, oh, I need to fire this person. And I've been in this situation recently. When in reality, I just need to coach, train, and mentor them because the friction and the problems that is created in your business when you fire someone and have to replace them is just so great, especially in a small business like ours. Um, so I hope that's kind of helpful. I don't know. I kind of went a little bit off the rails there, but that's how I've kind of gotten better. I can talk about how we train people or whatever, but um, that's how I think about it now.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that was a great answer. And I was curious about, everything is about where you kind of focus your time, and you're reverse engineering a lot of stuff. I think that's one thing that's probably a superpower of yours. And if you're able to break the business down simply to KPIs and then say, listen, where are the bottlenecks right now? That's what I got to go fill. Do I need to fill that bottleneck because with a human, or is it some sort of automation or workflow or whatever you need to do? And if it's a human, then you go hire them. As far as fitting, I do want to maybe dig in a little bit further and talk about training and company culture, and you know, and this is just also selfish for me. were virtual, but I've also worked in offices many times over the years, and I've always struggled with being virtual. In 2017, we did decide to, kind of become a big boy company, if you will, and put our big boy pants on, and we got an office, and we thought that was great. And it was in a lot of respects. But then people wanted to start coming to the office only 2, 3 days a week, and we sort of decided to get away from it. There was a lot of pros to having the office, and then when we went to virtual, there were a lot of pros to that too. So I mean, to be straightforward with you, I always struggle with working out of the home office 100%, but we are a virtual company ourselves. And yeah, I'm just curious, are you virtual? Do you like it? Are you in person? And then how do you foster the company culture?
Yeah, dude. I actually got smoked in Oceanside a couple days ago about this. So, the preface of the is I believe that I as a person am better fit. I'm a better fit as a CEO in person. So by me saying this does not mean that anyone needs to create this sort of company. But I think that being in person is a superpower. And so actually my goals over the next 2 to 3 years is to build an in-person office. I just think that, if you look at the biggest companies, they are in person. The best companies are in person. Um, and again, like I ruthlessly clone people who are smarter than me and better than me. Um, so if the best companies are doing this, the most successful companies are doing this, I'm going to do it. Um, and so so right now we are virtual, but as we are going to be bringing more and more people, and we're going to become a development company, and we're going to continue to kind of scale in that way. And so we're going to start. I'm going to buy a building in my city, just get the tax write offs and stuff, um, and cash flow or whatever, and I'm going to build an office, because I do think that it is super super um, valuable to be in person. I mean, look at like Hermosi, right? Like Hermosi, like obviously, um, think what you think about him. I think he's a great operator, obviously, and he makes people now come to Vegas.
Hmm.
And like he used to not, like during COVID, he used to, and he said many times that there's a potency and power in being in person. I think culture alone is really difficult to nail. Like culture is the thing that's actually like discretionary effort and energy is the alpha in our business. And in being in person, provided you have the right culture, allows you to harness that discretionary effort. And the top guys in CG, the Eric Brewers of the world, the top guys, the Doug Hopkins, right? Like these guys are in person. He's doing freaking $30 million a year. Jeff buys houses is doing freaking $30 million a year with 50% net margins, right? Like they're in person, and so depends on the type of business that you want to build. Um, but I am going in person. Right, but right now I'm virtual.
Gotcha. Great. I mean, great answer. I love to hear it. I really struggle with being virtual, and I think it's super hard to create that culture. And it's always struggle. It's always been a struggle for me. So I'm with you 100% on that. So I'm excited. Then I wanna come tour your office when you get it set up, man.
Yeah,
I'm
baby,
a
we'll do
ruthless
it.
cloner too, so I wanna see what you
Oh,
do
cool.
and take some notes and bring it back.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But I bet office space or buying an office building is probably, I don't know, it's probably a little bit more expensive where I live. That's the only trouble with California or SoCal. But
Correct. Correct.
cool. That's awesome. And I will share a little story. I mean, I wanna ask you a question, but I went to an office the other day, and it's like the business that I would like to be in a long time, right? Like the business that I would like to grow into. And they've been doing this for 40 years. And it was amazing. It was like hustling and bustling, two big screens that were in the conference room, and they were just doing, a site plan, and they were selling a piece that they had entitled to a developer. I mean, I didn't even want to leave. I was like, I just want to hang out here all day. I was just enthralled with it. And so it's fun to see those things and sort of say, okay, you know what? I can recreate this, and this is exactly the business I want to build. But that leads me to another question. I mean, you've got big plans, you've got big aspirations. You're going to go in person, you're going to become a developer. I mean, you can answer this however you want, but I'm always really curious to hear people's vision for the future, like way out, like where do you see yourself in 20, 30 years down the road? And maybe you've just Homer Simpsoned it and you're into a bush and you're fully retired, but like, what is that sort of vision that you have for the future, whatever that grand vision is?
Yeah, my clone, the guy that I clone is a guy by the name of Trammel Crow. He built a empire of real estate on one word, love. And I'm just inspired by creating a culture in an organization that is full of the most powerful human emotion. And I'm not trying to be woo woo here. I just think that there's so much meaningful moments that are embedded in a culture like that, and there's so much positive energy that you can create in the world if you do that for your family, for your children, for the families of the people that are part of your organization. So that's like really inspiring to me. Another reason why I like the in-person thing. So, looking out 20, 30 years, like I'm going to be playing the game, right? I will be playing this game until I die because I just love it. I love doing it. I have so much time left. Um, so, I think that um, the ambition is building this holding company of opportunity, right? For ourselves, for the investors, for people that are involved. Um, and really leaning on partnerships with people um, to create something that's greater than myself. I don't have
Hmm.
really a revenue goal because I think that revenue goals are goalposts that are not that inspirational after a certain extent. Like, sure, at that point, I hope to be incredibly financially free. Um, and by me saying this, that doesn't mean that I'm there yet. I'm really not there yet. I have a long way to go. Um, but I think that that deeper human emotion is something that's more driving for me, and it does create this compounding thing. Like the best partnership of the modern age is Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. And I one of their models of how they live is tap dancing to work, right? And a lot of how they live their life is like an inspiration for me. And so being that compounding vehicle, kind of giving others greater opportunities than I take myself, because I know that in the spirit of altruism, um, there's a really, really positive benefit for all. Um, that's the type of company that I want to build. Um, so, I mean, I want to be big too. Like I'm a competitor, so I want to be the best. But that's my orientation.
Yeah, yeah. Can you share a little bit about Trammel Crow? I mean, I know who Trammel Crow is, and I've had a few friends work there, and I understand, what they do, but just for listeners that may not be familiar with it.
Sure. So Trammel Crow is the largest real estate development company in America. Um, Trammel Crow was a Dallas, Texas-based developer that developed what is called speculative industrial building. So back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, um, he was developing. He was, by the way, an accountant, right? He didn't really get into development until his early 30s, but he invented speculative industrial development, which is essentially developing land or developing industrial buildings, warehouses, and like if you build it, they will come. He built, I think the Galleria Dallas, like he built, you know, massive amounts of malls in America, multifamily buildings. I mean, he's a full on developer, like the biggest one. Owns millions of square feet right now. The Trammel Crow Company, uh, and it's a family based holding company. So they have multifamily units. They have retail, commercial, everything. But he was a developer through and through. But how he really was able to achieve the heights that he achieved was he basically created the best alumni network of the top operators in America. So he would partner with people and lend his balance sheet and expertise to incredibly ambitious entrepreneurs and give them very generous splits in different cities across America. Provide guidance, provide counsel, and just give to these people. And so he developed in, I think he had at one point 13 cities that he was having partners in, that he basically was the capital. He basically was the balance sheet and the expertise. And most people would have said, wow, that's like very generous that you're giving someone 50%, because usually it's like 2 and 20. Um, but he scaled that way. And, he died as I don't know, maybe $15 billion net worth, something crazy. He doesn't have many interviews. But he did say in an interview that like the key to success is love, which is kind of where I got it from. I ripped it from him. And yeah, he's just like a real inspiration. I think he's just a very high level operator. Now, do I want to develop like he developed? I don't really know at this point. I'm hesitant to do that. I like the entitlement game a little bit better. I think it's a much safer. Um, I think eventually I'll probably develop, but not in a way that can reach those heights, because he was a risk taker too, and I'm a little bit more risk averse, I would say, than him. So yeah, that's who he is.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. I recently saw someone post a book, the Trammel Crow book. I don't know if have you seen that? Have you read it?
It's like $500, dude.
It's $500.
Yeah, the trim
Yeah.
build master builder. It's like 500, $450.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
They like don't print it. Like I was trying to buy it. I'm like $500 for a book. Well, pretty expensive for a book.
Well, heck, maybe it's worth it. It is expensive for a book, but maybe the intel is in there. I'm not sure if it's geared towards his story or his philosophy on building the business, or if it's just actually like developing. But that's cool. Yeah, I'm familiar with Trammel Crow, and I remember there was a gal that I came from the development world originally, and so a lot of folks that were working at the development firm that I worked at, they were would bounce around to other developers, and one gal that I work with, she went to Trammel Crow in Los Angeles, and I remember when she got the job, they said, hey, you know what, we've minted the most millionaires, um, I think out of any business or something like that. They had some stat like that where people that have come on board have
Yes.
become millionaires. And I thought that was pretty cool. So, okay. So today, and I get it, by the way, I get the fear of maybe coming out of the ground with development. Are you doing, you started right out of the gate doing subdivides, which is great, which is,
They're
not
little subdivides,
more.
man. Like I'll pat myself on the back, but you know, 28 acre property, cutting it up in four tracks. Like I would say it sounds better on paper than it actually was.
Sure, sure. And like, survey hacks, minor subdivides. I
Right, right,
get it.
right. Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Are you doing bigger deals now where they require, you go in and you actually do some infrastructure or curb gutter, any of that kind of stuff? What does a deal look like today for you, and what are you going after?
Um, we are kind of in the like the deals that we're doing, the entry price is above 600, usually between 600 to 1.5. That's usually our entry. So it's still pretty sub-institutional. And obviously the exit, we want to be double, right? Or more. So usually within that range, depending on the area of the country, you're still not putting in a lot of infrastructure. Now we do have a deal right now that we have under contract. We're in the feasibility. It's a buy for 1.5, putting about 250,000 of work. We think we'll exit around 3.5. It's a longer project. It's 700 acres. We're going to be, maybe we'll put in 300. We're going to put in some roads. We're going to pull some electricity down. But it's basically a minor, right? It's in Colorado, and there's 35-acre exemption, plat exemption. So it's going to be a plat exempt subdivide. Now the infrastructure is there, but it's not really that serious, right? So look, I would say for me, if I were to do something like that, Chris, I would want to lean on someone else. I want to work with someone else, because I do have a lot of investor capital that we work with. obviously have my own capital as well. Um, and I'm just not comfortable with I can do a minor subdivide, I can do stuff like that. One buy for one, one and a half, sell for three, three and a half. Um, that's not too complicated. But anytime it kind of gets to the next level, expertise, right? That's what I want to lean on.
Yeah. How do you do that? Because I always find it hard to go from one county to the next county and learn their rules, regulations, and zonings. You're going into all these different states. How do you build that expertise? Is it all third party expertise? Do you partner with someone that's local? What's the playbook there when you're going to do something like this that where, like you said, some of these things that might come out and prick you, you might not find out for 3 months down the road that there's some water rights issue like Colorado's got or whatever, right? So how do you insulate yourself from some of that risk?
I think area of country is important to consider. Um, Local expertise, like when someone brings us a deal, we're closing on one in 2-3 days. It's a buy for 712, sell for 1.4. The guy lives like 45 minutes from the house or the parcel, an hour from the parcel. Uh, there's some stuff in there that's scary. There's some OG right stuff. There's pipelines going through the property. The guy lives and knows the area. We are investing in the operator. So there is a high degree of trust. We vet the operator. Now, if we are the primary LP, um, and we're also like the co-GP in terms of operating the deal, we're gonna do some more due diligence. But again, we really, you know, there's not a lot of stuff to prick when you're doing minors. Now, if you're really concerned, you drill a damn well, right? Like there are things that you can do to mitigate risk. Um, we have a 350-acre tract that we're buying seller fi outside of Spokane, Washington. And, is there water right issues? We talked to the well guy. He's like, dude, you got a ton of wells around there. I know the area really well. You're not going to have any well right issues. So do I spend $35,000 in building a well? I don't know. Right. We're getting it for a great deal. We're going to sell it on terms, but we tend to do enough due diligence, and I'm very active in the due diligence. So I'm pretty detailed in making sure that we're checking all the boxes. Do the stuff come up? Yeah, of course. But that's why we get at a really good basis, right? So that we have that protection. If it ends up going up in flames or it takes too long, or it's such a good basis that, okay, we don't make any money.
Sure, makes sense. Perfect. And on the dispo side, you mentioned seller financing. Who are you selling to? Is it the retail buyer that wants a house? Are you selling to home builders, doing any entitlement deals? And then, if you are seller financing, are you seller financing where you're doing the carry and, um, is it uh, are you basically like staying on title or are you transferring
Wrapping.
title to them and actually, creating a mortgage?
We don't transfer the title. We will wrap it. Um, with like what if we're getting seller fi, we'll wrap it and we'll keep it in our name.
Okay. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay,
And
yeah,
then
okay.
as
So
it
yeah, you
relates to
did mention seller
entitlements,
fi.
I'm sorry.
You did mention seller fi, like, on the acquisition. So you do some deals where you seller fi on the acquisition, and then when you subdivide it and sell it, you'll seller finance it to the end
Yeah.
buyer as well?
Yeah.
Got Gotcha. Very cool.
Yeah. We buy it for no interest and we sell it for 12%.
Yeah. Yeah. Phenomenal. That's great. And when you sell it, do you like to keep the note portfolio or do you ever just sell the notes?
It depends on the equity in the deal. So right now we've just liquidated the notes, but we're going to build a huge portfolio. Like one of the goals over the next 12 months for me is to build a really massive portfolio of notes. But
Cool. Okay.
I've liquidated pretty much every one. No, every single note. I don't have a single note on my balance sheet right now.
No kidding. No kidding. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. We've done that. We did that back in 2020. We liquidated a ton of our notes. We kept a bunch, but then we have liquidated since because we realized we were like, you know what, we want to do cash flips and turn the profit and turn the profit and turn the profit. We still have a note portfolio now because it smooths out lumpiness in cash when you're doing cash flips. So I like it. I don't love it as much as, like I feel like buildings are really kind of a better um, asset for passive because you get the write-offs, where you don't really get that with land. But I do like to just have the repetitive money coming in. So have you met Eddie Speed in CG?
I have not yet met him.
He is the note king. He will talk your ear off about notes, but he's got a thing called Note School, which we went to several years ago, which is great. So,
Okay.
one of the things that you mentioned too was just about, like leaning on experts, whether that's a partner or not. And I've seen in your recent posts, and I think it might have been in your blog articles, your newsletter that comes out, you're putting together something really cool that you're putting groups of people together. And I forget what it's called, but can you share a little bit about that? Because I think that's a great idea for land investors to take a look at.
Yeah. So we, in our in our deal engine community, we are basically putting together pods, right? So I created a 5-stage, let's say, roadmap of land investors. So you have a beginner, a hustler, an operator, an architect, and a developer. At each different level, you have different revenue rungs. And I think the problem with learning, and you and I were discussing this even before the call, was it's very hard to clone someone that's at your level. And then when you learn about things, you learn the information, programs or communities, they like kind of just fizzle out because most of the time, people that actually run these programs have never done more than $1 million a year. Most of them have never done more than like $300,000 a year, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like it, it the utility of most education programs and communities in general is so low. You extract the value from I learned how to flip land, but there's no actual benefit from ongoing shared experience. Um, and so what we're doing is we're launching in like probably like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, Chris, something in that range. What we're calling pods, which is essentially we audit the business structure, and like it's not going to be a crazy audit, but where are you in our stack? Are you a beginner? Are you a hustler? Are you an operator, architect? And so you're in the community. Obviously, there's content and weekly calls and stuff like that. But we're also adding on top of that, like pod structures designed on revenue levels and team levels. So this doesn't exist in the land space because, again, most people, including the person that creates it, does not have an actual business. And so it's very hard for them to say, what do you actually need at this level? And so, most of the people in the community are at a hustler or an operator level, right? So you're doing, 100 to maybe 750 a year, a lot of the people in the community. But more and more people at the higher level is like, yo, dude, like I would want to be a part of this because there's no one really speaking about this at a very high level. And I want to be a part of people that are sharing the best practices. Um, One of the things that's really important to me is as you get kind of higher level, some of these people have like education programs. Well, maybe not, but there's like probably maybe 25 to 50 people at that high level that are active, that are out there, and I'm good friends with a couple of them. I actually spoke with one last week, speaking with another this week. I'm talking like multi 7-figure profit businesses, and there's no one for that. Like that doesn't exist, and so I think that's super interesting. So we're kind of building this out. We're doing beta tests. We're getting this right. We're going to get all the KPIs dialed in. We're going to get all the to make sure that it's actually valuable and accountable to people. And that's just going to be another benefit for being in the deal engine, um, because you can't AI your way to that. Like the accountability, the community of that actually is it's super valuable. And so I'm really excited about that, offering that. That's going to be launching here. I don't know when this podcast comes out, but that'll be launching here. And there's no additional cost to that or add on or anything like that. That's just a part of the main thing. So really excited about that.
Yeah, dude, really excited about that. I think that's a great idea. And, I mean, our journey started all the way back in like 2014, and I couldn't agree with you more in that, you know, I mean, once you get taught from someone that's not really like, doing a giant business, the education kind of ends, right? And then you're out there doing it on your own. And that's what we were. We were just kind of on an island. We luckily had a mentor in the business that had started doing it in 97, which was great. And, that was very helpful for us. But
I
I mean, he
remember our
had kind of
conversation
like,
now.
what's that?
I remember our conversation.
Okay. Okay.
I
Yeah.
remember it. It's coming back. It's coming back. I remember we talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it almost was like aged advice, because he had sort of retired almost in 2012, but then he circled back and he got in and he started a private equity fund for real estate, and it was great in a lot of ways, but it wasn't as specific, as what you're doing, where you have these operators that are like stacked right up on top of each other, and I found that when we were communicating with people that were like our peers, our conversations were, like, oh, are you going to send out direct mail or text? How many are you going to do? And it was very, just, I guess, we were just kind of like switching marketing channels, if you will, right? But then when we actually joined CG, that was like our first time that we really joined a group where people were operating so much higher than us. And there were some land investors, there weren't a lot, but they were so far beyond us that we really started to actually like change our operation as a whole. And the thing about that though was it was primarily like house wholesalers and house flippers. And so the context was a little bit different, right? But you're doing it inland with levels that are stacked on top of each other. And I mean, dude, I think it's a great idea. I think it's going to be really, really helpful for people. And I think it's actually going to be like a really good community that you'll put together there. So excited to learn more. How do people learn more about it, and how do they learn more about you and your journey?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on social media. So, Instagram is really the best place to I've kind of slack with X. Instagram is the best place to find me, um, to get a hold of me and DM me, if you're interested in this or just in general. Like we fund tons of deals. I love this, dude. I love this business. Like I actually am like, I love to talk to people in this business. I literally will talk to people for hours about this. I had a call with some guy that was on East Coast time at like 5:30 in the morning Pacific time, and we talked for like an hour and a half. I was just freaking walking around Oceanside because we're talking about a business. Like it's so exciting.
Yeah.
And I also love that kind of that way of breaking bread with people. So yeah, I'm like very active, and we could put it's just Clay Hepler, on Instagram, and I'm the land guy. So I don't know if there's any other Clay Heplers, but I'm the Clay Hepler with the land guy. So you can connect with me there, and my email is clay@landman.ao. So you can email me. I'm gonna get some like emails from like some dude in Pakistan or something after this episode. But that's how you can get a hold of me. And happy to talk all things land, happy to talk funding. We do a lot of interesting funding deals, and the community as well.
Awesome. Awesome, man. Well, I'm a fan, Clay. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for jumping on. And anybody that's doing anything to land at any level, go find Clay and hit him up. Join his community.